Hi everybody, in this video we're going to go through some practice problems and your job is to answer any questions that pop up on the screen while you're watching this video. Question number 1 says, the two triangles below are similar. Which similarity statement is correct? A, triangle CAT is similar to triangle OGD. B, triangle CAT is similar to triangle DOG. C, triangle TAC is similar to triangle DOG, or D, triangle ACT is similar to triangle DOG. So basically, we're trying to figure out which statement has correctly matched up our angles. So let's go through each one. The first one says triangle CAT is similar to triangle OGD. So we're saying that angle C and angle O must be a match. When I look at angle C in the picture, I notice that it has two marks, two lines through it. So that means angle O should also have two marks on that angle. So yes, I can see that angle C and angle O are congruent. The next angle in the statement is angle A. I notice that angle A has one line through that, which means this other angle G should also have one line through it. But when I look at the picture, I notice that angle G has three lines. So the angle that actually matches angle A on this triangle is angle D. So this is not a good statement because those angles do not match. So the last two angles that match are going to be angle T and angle G because they each have three angle marks. So you can see 1, 2, 3 here, and 3 here. So now that we've correctly identified each pair of matching angles on our similar figures, let's look at choice B. Choice B says triangle CAT is similar to triangle DOG. Well, we already know that angle C matches up with angle O. And this says angle C and angle D would be a match, so B is not correct. Choice C says triangle TAC is similar to triangle DOG. I know that angle T has three tick marks through it, so that should match up with angle G because it also has three tick marks to it. But this statement has angle T and angle D matched up. Well, D has one tick mark and T has three, so these are not a match. Our last choice says triangle ACT is similar to triangle DOG. So that means angle A and angle D should be a match. Well, angle A has one tick mark and angle D has one tick mark. Next, that means angle C and angle O should be a match. Well, angle C has two lines going through it, and angle O also has two lines going through it, so those are a match. So last, angle T and angle G should be congruent or a match. Angle T has three lines through it, and angle G has three lines through it, so that means that they are congruent, which means they are a match. So the correct similarity statement here is going to be choice D. Question 2 says, a 6-foot man casts a 4-foot shadow. If a tree casts a 28-foot shadow, how tall is the tree? So I'm going to use a proportion to set up and solve this question because it's asking us to compare two equal ratios. I know that if a 6-foot man casts a 4-foot shadow, this tree and its shadow should be proportional to the man and that shadow. So I want to go ahead and write my numbers in from the picture in this proportion, and that's going to help me solve for h, the height of the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and use the number 6 first. That's the height of the man, and he casts a 4-foot shadow. So I could write S for shadow in the front to help me remember that my numbers for shadow are going to go down below. I don't know how tall the tree is, but I do know that it casts a 28-foot shadow. So I'm going to put 28 in the bottom so that I'm consistent with my units, and all of my numbers that represent shadows can go down below. I still don't know the height of this tree, so this is where I'm going to write H, or we could use X, just any letter that represents your missing number that we don't know. Once your proportion is set up, you want to go ahead and cross multiply and then divide by the number across from your variable to solve. So what does that look like? That means we're going to cross multiply 6 times 28, and then we're going to divide by the number across from h. So we're going to divide by 24. So our work in the calculator is going to look like 6 times 28 and then we'll get our answer. Which equals 168. Oops. And then I get to take my answer and divide that by the number across from h, or x. I'm going to divide by the number 4. So over here, I want to know what 168 divided by 4 is, and I get 42. So my final answer here is that the height of this tree is 42 feet. So the best answer choice for number 2 would be A. Don't forget to clear out your calculator before you move on to the next question. Question 3 says the points x, y, and z are graphed below. If the figure is translated +5 horizontally and -6 vertically, what are the coordinates of x prime? So they want us to take this triangle and move it 5 units horizontally, which means 5 units to the right, and -6 vertically, which is going to be 6 units down. The question also specifically asked us what will the coordinates of x prime be. So that means we want to know and start with that point x. So starting with point x, I want to move 5 units horizontal. Because it's a +5, that means we're going to go 5 to the right. If it were a -5 horizontal, that would mean we would move 5 units to the left. So from my point where x is at -2, 2, I'm going to move 5 right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I need to move -6 vertically, which means from here I'm going to move down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After I've completed both translations, I know that this new spot is where x prime would be. So x prime is going to have an ordered pair of +3, -4. So the best answer choice here is going to be choice C. Question 4 says, triangle EFG is shown on the grid. The coordinates of triangle EFG are E -3, 1, F 2, -4, and G -3, -4. If triangle EFG is reflected over the y-axis, what are the coordinates of E prime? So they told us 2 really important things in the question. They said that we're going to reflect over the y-axis. Remember, that's this vertical axis here. So we're going to be reflecting over that or across it. It also asked us for the new coordinates for E prime, which means we need to focus on that point E to start. So if I want to take this point E and reflect it over the y-axis, that means I need to cross the y-axis. So that means in this case, I'm going to be moving to the right. So what I want to do is figure out my distance from E to the y-axis. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. Because I'm 3 units from the y-axis, to reflect over the y-axis, I just need to move 3 units in the opposite direction. So now from here, I'm going to go right. 1, 2, 3. This is where our new point would be after a reflection over the y-axis. So our new ordered pair for E prime, always start at your origin, would be 3, 1. So our best answer choice here would be B. Question 5 says, in rhombus WXYZ, line WX is 5 inches. What is the length of XY? So they tell us that line WX is 5 inches long. So let's find that line WX. So here's W and here's X. So this line WX is going to be up at the top, and they're telling us that this has a length of 5 inches. They want us to know the length of line XY, or side XY. So here's X and here's Y. So that means they're asking us to find the length of this right side. So how can we do this? Well, we know that this is a rhombus. That's a very important part of the problem here. A rhombus means that this shape has all congruent sides. That means that all 4 sides are congruent or equal to each other. So if this side is 5, this side is 5, this side is 5, and this side is 5. So what is the length of XY? That would be 5 inches. Question 6 says, the following shape belongs to all of the following except blank. And then we have some choices. This belongs to everything but quadrilateral, parallelogram, rhombus, or polygon. So looking at this shape, let's just go down our list. Is this a quadrilateral? Well, to be a quadrilateral, you have to have 4 sides. Does this have 4 sides? It sure does. So yes, this is a quadrilateral. Choice B says a parallelogram. Is this a parallelogram? Well, remember, to be a parallelogram, you need to have opposite sides congruent. The left and the right side are definitely congruent. The top and the bottom are definitely congruent. So yes, its opposite sides are congruent. These opposite sides should also be parallel. I can tell by looking at them that the top and the bottom are parallel, and so are the left and the right. You can mark the parallel sides with these little arrows. So if I wanted to mark that the top and bottom were parallel to each other, I could draw something like this. Another important characteristic of the parallelogram is that the opposite angles should be congruent. So looking at the angles that are opposite to each other or across, are they the same? Well, yes, I can see this angle here has 1 mark, as does the angle across from it. I can also see that these angles down here have 2 lines. 1, 2. Ooh, that does not look good. I'm going to erase that. And so does the angle across from it. It also has 2 lines. So yes, I can go ahead and say that this is a parallelogram. So again, remember, the question asks for what this shape can be classified as all of these except what. So we're looking for the thing that it's not. Choice C says rhombus. Now remember, a rhombus is supposed to have 4 congruent sides, which means all 4 sides should be equal. Looking at this picture, I can tell that the left and the right side are equal to each other, but the top and the bottom are not equal to the left and the right. This has 1 tick mark and 1 tick mark, but the top and the bottom each have 2 tick marks. So that means the top and the bottom are not the same length as the left and the right. So does this have 4 congruent sides? No. So this shape could be classified as all of these, but it could not be classified as a rhombus because it does not have 4 congruent sides. All right, our last question, 7, says, which quadrilateral is not in the correct place on the Venn diagram? So the titles of the Venn diagram are very important. On the left side, it says that the diagonals are perpendicular. Remember, perpendicular means they cross each other at 90-degree angles. They make right angles. The right-hand side says that the characteristic we're looking for has 4 right angles. So all 4 angles inside that quadrilateral would be 90 degrees. The question says which one of these quadrilaterals is not in the correct place on the Venn diagram? Is it parallelogram, rhombus, square, or rectangle? So looking at the quadrilaterals listed, do I think a rectangle has 4 right angles? Yes, I know a rectangle has 4 right angles, so rectangle's in the correct spot. So I don't need to pick that. Now, does a square have 4 right angles? Yes, it does. But I also need to make sure that a square has diagonals that are perpendicular. Do the diagonals on a square cross each other at 90-degree angles? Yes, they do. So square is also in the correct spot, so we won't be needing to move that. So it's either that the parallelogram or the rhombus is not correctly in the Venn diagram. The trait we're looking at is that diagonals are perpendicular. When I think about a parallelogram and I think about its diagonals, I do not think that they are perpendicular. I don't think a parallelogram's diagonals cross at 90 degrees. Here's a picture of a parallelogram, and the diagonals are drawn for you in green. Looking at this angle here and the angle across from it, they are obtuse. They are much bigger than 90 degrees. Looking at this angle here and this angle across from it, they are both acute angles. They are much smaller than 90 degrees. So did these diagonals make 90-degree angles? No, they were not perpendicular. So parallelogram is in the wrong spot on the Venn diagram. If we had a picture of a rhombus, you would see that yes, the diagonals are perpendicular on a rhombus, so we don't need to move that. That's it for today's video. Remember, you can always go back and try again if you want to answer these questions.